To recap really quickly on Letchworth and the kind of economic model that goes behind it, and perhaps just to say a quick word about also the kind of artistic policy they've got, because just following on from that presentation about the role of art in planning, that's something else we've kind of lost. So this is the middle of Letchworth, and the Letchworth Trust funds a lot of activities. I'll explain how that financial model works. But so here's the question: how do you pay for Utopia? All of these ideas come together and you'd go into the current development model in Belfast or any other part of the UK, and what would the answer be from developers? Be a quick answer, wouldn't it? Would be lovely to do that, but we can't afford it. Wouldn't be viable. So the different development model that Letchworth harnessed to fund all these things, this is the outdoor cinema. And so all the residents of Letchworth go online and they get to book a film for the outdoor cinema. They get to select it. I'd hate that. Most of the films I want to watch, nobody else on earth would want to watch with me. So that would be a bit of a challenge. Like John Mills, that would be quite cool, wouldn't it? But again, all of this is funded by the trust. It's not funded by the local authority, even though the local authority plays a role in funding all sorts of other activities. This is the really enormous, extensive allotment gardens, and this is some of the really high quality green space that they've got in Letchworth, again, which is all funded. So quickly, how does it happen? Well, essentially, what Ebenezer Howard did was he fell out with his fellow committee members in about 1902, and he stormed off to Hertfordshire and bought an estate at auction, but he didn't have any money. So he bought the estate for agricultural value, cost him £3,500, went back on the train to London, went to his rich friends and said, help me out here. I've committed myself to buying this enormous piece of land. That's the way to do it, isn't it? That's really the way to build Utopia. But the core of it is about gaining ownership of land at the current use value. So if you can own a piece of land for agricultural value, which, you know, in the southeast of England is worth, you know, it might be worth 50, 60,000 pounds a hectare now, but it's worth 10 to 100 times more once you've given it planning permission. And this idea of betterment that I was talking about earlier is the founding way of financing these places. So Letchworth bought all that land, and then the development went forward, and the increase in land values that it created was one source of income, but it also got sources of income from running all its own utilities, its water and gas company and its energy company as well. So it had those sources, and it used that income to pay down the loans that actually you had to take out to pay for the land in the first place, and of course the loans you need to pay for the upfront infrastructure. So you end up with a self-financing model. Yes, you do need to borrow money, but of course you're sat on an enormous amount of collateral. The problem with it is, can it be used in a regeneration context? Can that model be used you know, perhaps in an area of Belfast? Well, the basic principles do apply. The uplift in development value is there. Most of the way we're collecting that value through planning at the moment is through planning gain, different forms of getting contributions from developers. But here's the thing, the current development model that we have in the UK is one of the most highly speculative in Europe. So in the Netherlands, they're requiring much less payback because it's public sector led from their housing. But when developers say it's not viable, developers are looking for 25% profit, for example, on housing units in the southeast of England, 25%. In the Netherlands, they're taking maybe 7 or 8. The difference in those two figures is the difference between education, green infrastructure provision, and all the things you need to have to make a decent place. So my final message is really this, that when developers say to us, that's not viable, you need to really unpick what their economic viability forecast for that individual site really is. And we need a couple of things to make Utopia happen, is complete open book accounting. That's beginning to happen in some places, but you need to see the honest accounts for development sites so you can recognise, I guess, where the real costs fall. Because without that, actually, you can't generate a real attempt to deliver Utopia. What really struck me about the Letchworth model is that, you know, all these ideas are nice, aren't they? They're nice to have. But the great contribution the Garden City model made at Letchworth was to show how economically they can easily be paid for. But you need a more cooperative ownership model, and you need a fair distribution of the rewards of development. And that means a strong planning system and a democratic planning system. That's it.